Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. I am so glad you are here. Today I wanted to quickly talk about kind of what my life was like before my transplant. On the blog post today, I also posted about this, but I wanted to just go a little deeper into it on here with you guys. And I also have some fun pictures to show you. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so before my transplant, before all of that, there was something that caused me to have my liver transplant, right? So it's a little more unique for me because I didn't have my liver transplant until I was 9. And the reason I needed it and the symptoms I was having were not symptoms that were like that you would think of, and it wasn't like instantly everybody knew it was because of liver failure. So that's kind of where I guess it's a little more unique. But anyway, I was born with a disease called biliary atresia. It's a rare disease that affects infants. It's basically when the bile ducts in and outside of the liver are obstructed and inflamed and damaged. And normally the doctors will perform what's called a Kasai procedure, which is where they will take the bile ducts and from the small intestine and attach it directly to your liver. So I did end up having that procedure, and I did really well. A lot of times, infants, babies that are born with biliary atresia, eventually they need a liver transplant because the Kasai procedure doesn't hold, I guess, or last. But for me, I had the Kasai procedure when I was a baby, and I didn't start having issues, which come to find out were because of my liver, until I was 9 years old. So I was pretty fortunate. Up to 9 years old, I lived a very normal life. Like I didn't really even know, now that I think about it, that I was sick as a baby. Like I remember my mom telling me that I went to Disney World for a Make-A-Wish Foundation when I think I was 2 because I was sick. There was fundraisers. I was in a parade. Like I was really sick when I was a baby, and I guess didn't realize that at the time, or really know that. I just thought like I just got sick and needed a liver transplant, but in reality, my parents kind of knew all along I was eventually going to need one. So it was really, for me, out of nowhere. And I think too for my parents, my family, but I do remember my dad saying like they thought that I was at least going to be a teenager before I would need a liver transplant if I needed one. So the fact that it came a little earlier than that was also kind of a shock, but it wasn't like I was sick from the time I was born until 8 years old. So that's kind of like, I guess, different too, because a lot of families and a lot of people that I talk to that have had liver transplants because of biliary atresia, they normally just have a liver transplant pretty quickly after biliary atresia or after the Kasai procedure. So for me to go until I was 8 years old, I guess was pretty amazing, I guess. I don't know. But I wanted to show you just a few pictures because before the Kasai, I believe it was before the Kasai procedure, I had a bile bag attached to my stomach, obviously, to drain all the bile and everything. And you can see like my stomach was big because my liver was enlarged and everything, but I also had a bile bag. And I have some other pictures a long time ago when I scrapbooked. I put these pictures in here, but there's one that like really shows how enlarged my stomach was, like major. And another thing was some common symptoms of biliary atresia is jaundice, which is yellowing of the skin and eyes, pale stools, enlarged liver, things like that. And you can see in these pictures, like I was very jaundiced. This is another one with the bio bag. You can see it like right here. You can also see that's probably bile. You can see in this one, I'm very jaundiced, this one. So I would say jaundice and my like stomach being so hard and big were probably the two most common symptoms I had. But I will say, I do want to say, I am not a doctor. If you are listening to this and you're thinking, my child has pale stools, my child's a little jaundiced, or you have any questions of like, if you think your baby could possibly have biliary atresia, please just go get checked out, get the proper testing, diagnosis. Just because your baby's jaundiced does not mean that they are automatically gonna have to have a liver transplant or have biliary atresia or anything like that. So I just want to put that out there. But anyway, fast forward, I was born with biliary atresia, had the Kasai procedure, and then I just went on and lived my life. Like, I don't remember being sick and I don't remember having issues. So then in second grade, I didn't know it at the time, or I wasn't like aware of it until after the fact, but I was getting really short of breath. I remember like my gym teacher telling my parents that I couldn't even like run around the gymnasium, which in an elementary is not that big. But I couldn't even do that without having to like take a break or like being super, super out of breath and short of breath. And I remember at my brother's birthday party, his birthday was in January. At his birthday party, my grandma actually noticed that my fingertips, so like my fingertips and my nail beds were purple, and like my lips all around here were purple. And she was just like, what's on your hands and what's on your mouth? Like, did you eat something? Did you get into something? You know, did you do something at school? And I was just, I don't know what I said, but obviously no, like I said no. And so then she ended up having me like go into the bathroom and like wash my hands and wash my face and try to get it off, and it wouldn't come off. So then they were like, why the heck is she purple? Is she turning blue? And I honestly, I don't remember if it was that evening I went to the doctor's or the emergency room, or if it was like the next day I had a doctor's appointment or I went to the ER. Like, I don't quite remember, but I know, gosh, we have a huge Santa inflatable in our front yard, and it moves. It's like a Santa and a reindeer, and they have coffee mugs, and their arms come like this, and then they cheers. Well, it just like did that and freaked me out, and it's been doing it. So I don't know why that one time like freaked me out like that, but anywho. But anyway, I obviously went to the doctors, and they checked my pulse ox, my pulse, you know, the little thing that they put on your finger and to check your oxygen levels. And a normal is obviously 100. Like anything from like a 93 to 100 is pretty good. 100's great, obviously, but I mean like 93 is okay too. Mine was like, I think it was like in the 60s. And So they obviously immediately put me on oxygen and were like, I don't know how she's even like walking around and functioning. But so from that day forward, I was on oxygen. I was an 8-year-old carrying around this big old oxygen tank through the halls. I had a backpack or like a little bag. We had the big, huge oxygen tank in our house to fill the little tanks. And, you know, my dad kept a diary, kept a journal of pretty much from that day until like a month or two after my transplant. And it sounds like I was on, I think, 2 liters of oxygen, and my oxygen sats were still like in the 80s. Like, I don't think he mentioned my oxygen levels being in the 90s until well after my transplant. And I was on oxygen from that day on, from January till April, because I couldn't be without the oxygen. And, you know, honestly, that I'm saying this out loud, like January, February, March, April, like really 3 months. Like for me, it seems like this was like a year long. Like it seems like I was in the hospital for a very, very long time. But now saying it out loud, I'm like, really, January to April it wasn't that long. So anyway, so I was on oxygen, and then of course the question of like, what is going on with her lungs? Why is she all of a sudden like not able to breathe? Why are her lungs not getting enough oxygen? What the heck's going on? So long story short, I ended up having, they ended up finding out that I had a disease called hepatopulmonary syndrome, which essentially was liver lung disease. And after doctors and doctors and doctors, they figured out, okay, well, her liver is failing, which is causing her lungs to fail, essentially. And I guess from reading my dad's journal entries, if they didn't fix the hepatopulmonary syndrome in like a certain time frame, then it would have been like irreversible or something. I can't remember, but it was like, I remember him saying something about like they needed to fix the whole thing. So obviously they figured out the source was my liver, which meant the Kasai procedure was no longer doing what it needed to do. My liver was starting to fail. Fast forward to being put on the transplant list. I was put on the list for liver. I don't think there was ever any talk of lung transplant or anything like that. I lived about 2.5 hours away from the hospital that I ended up staying at and having my transplant at. I ended up having my transplant and everything, all my workups, still to this day, are done through the University of Michigan. And yeah, I had my transplant and I just stopped needing oxygen. I mean, not right away, but obviously I'm not on oxygen. And I've never had any issues with my lungs. Since then, I've never struggled. I mean, the only thing that I can think of lung related is when I was pregnant with my second back in 2017 or 2016, 17. I ended up developing like a really, really bad cough, and I could not get rid of it no matter what. And I was wheezing all the time and I was coughing stuff up. And I remember going to my transplant appointment and I was telling them about it, and they ended up like testing my like sputum, my whatever I was coughing up. They ended up testing it to make sure I didn't have some disease or something that they were thinking I could have had even when I like was younger. They were wanting to make sure that I wasn't getting that back or like any problems, and I didn't end up having that. But I will say that's really the only lung related thing. Like now I find like in the wintertime, or if I am like running for a long time, or like right now even I am getting over a cold and the cough is still just lingering. That's really the only thing is, and I'm not even saying that that's because of hepatopulmonary syndrome. That could just be me, you know. My kiddo's, I don't know what he's doing. You all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just grabbing.
Huh?
I was just grabbing some of these.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's kind of the whole short version of what led to my transplant. It wasn't a cut and dry, like her liver starting to fail and I was showing like I was becoming jaundice again, or my stomach was enlarged or anything like that. At least not right away. I do remember being jaundice again, just looking at some pictures, not really my skin, but like the whites of my eyes. But other than that, I don't remember like having like any of the other symptoms. So yeah, it was just, it was crazy. And you know, one of the big reasons, what's up?
When you're done, will you help me clean up my room?
Sure. You can start putting the cars and stuff back, and then I'll help you with the little buildings. Okay?
Yeah.
They were playing with micro minis, these like little itty bitty cars, and like he has all these buildings, and of course they get them all out, and then he doesn't want to put them back. But yeah, so it's kind of crazy to me sometimes because I started this whole like blog, YouTube channel, not only to bring awareness to like transplants and liver transplants and biliary atresia. Bringing more awareness to biliary atresia alone is like a big passion of mine, but also like organ donation and gift of life, donate life. I want to bring awareness to all of that, but I also want to bring awareness, or I don't want to bring awareness, but I also want to like share my testimony and just how I have found God within the last few years. And now that I've found him and he's in my life, looking back on everything I've been through, it's like even more of an eye-opener that he's always been there. He's always been on my side. He's never left. And it just took me a while to realize that. And sometimes I just want to say too, like, I don't ever take for granted the gift of life that I received. Like, I am fully aware of how lucky I am. I had my transplant 27 years ago. Let's knock on some wood. I have no issues. I take my anti-rejection medications, which is 2 pills in the morning, 2 at night. I don't take any other medications. I'm no longer on steroids. I don't have to take antibiotics before I go to the dentist anymore, which used to be a thing. I've had 2 healthy babies. I stayed healthy through both pregnancies. Like, I am very, very blessed. And I literally would not be here if it weren't for my donor and my donor's family for, you know, also like being there and agreeing to it and everything. And you know, that's not lost on me, but there are times where I don't fully realize how big of a deal all of it is when I just think about it. When I'm talking to other people about it, they'll be like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so glad that you're healthy, or do you have any problems, or, you know, things like that. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm fine. I just had a liver transplant. Like, if I meet a new doctor or some, you know, whatever the case may be. Or like the other thing that I've noticed is when I watch, like, I love medical shows, and I used to work at the hospital, and I think part of that is because I was in the hospital for so long, in and out, and like I've gotten my blood drawn basically every other month since I was born. It used to be I had to get it done like weekly, then monthly, and now it's every other month. But anyway, like I I love anything medical. I love all the medical shows, stuff like that. So it's always like crazy when you watch those shows and the episodes are about somebody that needs a transplant, or like especially liver transplant, and like they make it such a scary deal and like such a big deal, and they like, make it so life or death. And it is that. It is. But for me, I think sometimes like it's not that big of a deal because I'm just a normal person that had this, and I've just been very blessed, and I know that there are a ton of people out there whose journeys are a lot worse than mine. Either they're still in it or they're struggling after the fact, or families that have kiddos with biliary atresia, like whatever it may be. But I think that's part of, I don't want to like start rambling, but I think that's part of why too, after watching and talking to people, and then also like through social media, seeing that people are trying to bring more awareness to it. And there are people, like the little bits and pieces that I've shared on my Instagram, I have met so many amazing families of, like I said, kids that are waiting or have had liver transplants. I've met transplant recipients of all types of organs. I've met people in organizations. I'm working with an organization. Like, it has really opened a lot of amazing doors for me. And I've realized that, and like the idea to do my part and bring more awareness and spread awareness for donating life and organ donation. I just feel like that's part of my purpose. I feel like God put me through everything I've been through so I can share my journey and so I can share it with you guys. And hopefully it resonates with somebody. Hopefully it's going to reach the right people. I have always said since day one, if it just at least helps one person, I feel I've done my job. So that's kind of like, I don't know. It's just so strange to me sometimes because for so many years, I never talked about it, and I never really like made a big deal about it. And I still don't like make a big deal about it, but like I never would have thought to do this. I would always, on my transplant anniversary, I would always post something and like thank my donor and everything, and like put a link for people to donate or sign up to be an organ donor or something like that. But that was like the gist of it. And then there would be times where I would post that and people would be like, oh my God, I can't believe you had a transplant. I would have never known that. Or people would ask like, how long ago did you have one? Do you have any issues? And then that slowly started opening doors and like the idea. And I just want to help families. And I'm very passionate about helping the kiddos, because I remember what it's like, not only when you're waiting for the transplant and like you're not allowed to be around people because you're sick, and then after your transplant you're immunocompromised. I'm still immunocompromised, but especially right after my transplant, like I couldn't really be around a lot of people. I had a tutor, I couldn't go to school. I remember like I used to have my veins in my face would be like very prominent. I remember going to school one day and one of my friends asked me like why I have purple veins on my face. And yeah, so I just want kids to know, and family, parents to see that it's okay. Like, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna get your gift of life, and you're gonna be okay, and you're gonna live a normal life, and you can do whatever you wanna do. Sky's the limit, and you're no different than anybody else out there. And I think that's partly why it's taken me this long to like speak up and use my voice and my experience and my journey for this purpose, for good, because I've always felt like I'm just like everybody else. I just had a transplant. So yeah. That's kind of where I'm at with that. In the future, I will still obviously be talking about transplants, and I will talk a little bit about like different things that happened in the hospital, you know, fun little stories. But I'm also going to start getting into, you know, just my journey that led me back to God, and my testimony, and just where I'm at today, because I also want to help people in that. Like, I truly feel the Lord telling me, like, you've gone through all of this so you can be a light for others. And I don't think that stops just with my transplant story. But I didn't want to keep like talking about, oh, I'm going to start talking about it, or I'm going to start writing about it, and then I'm not talking about it. So I wanted to get it out there. But like I said, I also wrote a little blog post about it that has a little more detail about exactly like what biliary atresia is, and things like that. If you want to go hop over there, there's pictures over there as well. I would really, really appreciate it. And then you can also subscribe to receive my newsletter. And every Sunday, I send just a little Sunday weekly encouragement, just a little encouragement letter to get your week started. I do not like spam your email. And then every Wednesday, I put up a new blog post, just like I do a new YouTube video. I am also going to link down below a link for the Donate Life website. If you are interested in becoming an organ donor or volunteering or helping in any way, you can click on that link and it will walk you through all of it. You can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I share just my whole life behind the scenes and everything over on those. But I really, really appreciate it. And please subscribe to this and click the little bell. You will be notified when I'm on here, when I post new videos. I really, really hope that you subscribe and you join this community. And I hope this resonates with you in some way, or encourages you in some way. And yeah, I look forward to talking more about everything and getting to know you guys as well. So comment down below if you're watching this and you know somebody that's had a transplant, or you yourself have had one, or you are waiting for one. I would love to connect with as many people as possible. So yeah, I'm praying for you all, and I hope you guys continue to tune in, and I will see you next week.